Imagine a city born from the desert's embrace, its skyline a glittering testament to ambition, reaching for clouds that once held only sand. You're walking past gleaming glass towers, their reflections shimmering on artificial canals, the air alive with the hum of commerce and the distant roar of jets landing at a global crossroads. Children laugh in manicured parks, their futures seemingly as boundless as the horizon. This isn't a mirage, it's the tangible dream of a generation, a place where yesterday's pearl diver's son builds tomorrow's skyscraper. For decades, this vision stood as an unshakable promise. Effort yields reward, and progress is an endless ascent. But you're about to discover that this spectacular ascent, this architectural marvel and economic miracle, didn't emerge from thin air. It was engineered, yes, but its foundations hold a truth far more intricate than simple success. This isn't fiction, it's consequence. Comment where you're watching from and join a global conversation about the forces shaping our world. We will pull back the shimmering veil, inviting you to peer into the hidden machinery behind one of the modern world's most audacious economic experiments. You will understand precisely how a small desert outpost defied the conventional resource curse, transforming itself into a global titan. Yet, it meticulously traded one structural dependency, finite oil reserves, for another, more intricate, an unyielding reliance on perpetual global capital flow, external talent, and geopolitical stability. This isn't a narrative you often encounter. The story of boundless, uninterrupted success is simply more comforting, more marketable. But beneath the polished surfaces, a complex system operates, one whose fundamental vulnerabilities are rarely discussed, yet profoundly impact every life it touches. Prepare to see the true cost of perpetual motion, and why its celebrated promise of limitless expansion now faces its ultimate defining test. Before the gleaming spires, before the global spotlight, Dubai was a modest pearl diving and trading post. Its pivotal moment arrived with the discovery of oil. Yet, unlike its neighbors, its reserves were finite, a mere whisper compared to the thunderous wells nearby. This stark reality was the crucible of a radical idea. Instead of merely extracting and consuming, Dubai's visionary leadership decided to aggressively reinvest every available dollar. Ports, airports, free zones, world-class infrastructure sprung from the desert sand, meticulously crafted to attract global trade and talent. This burgeoning system worked because it offered a clear, meritocratic path. It benefited anyone willing to work hard, innovate, and embrace global connections. The implicit promise was clear. Your future, your family's future, would be secure, perpetually rising with the tide of this new, interconnected world. If you want to understand complex global dynamics that no one else explains to the end, subscribe to our channel and join a community that demands deeper insights. This promise resonated deeply with people like Omar Al-Farsi. In his late 40s, Omar embodies the very spirit of Dubai's rise. Born into a modest family, he watched his city transform, and he transformed with it. Starting as a junior in a burgeoning construction firm, he learned the rhythm of progress, the language of steel and glass. His days were a relentless pursuit of perfection, overseeing projects, ensuring every detail aligned with the city's grand vision. He carries the quiet pride of a man who built his success brick by brick, believing that his strategic vision and tireless work would always be rewarded. For Omar, and for many like him, Dubai was the ultimate land of opportunity, where meritocracy was not just an ideal, but a tangible reality that guaranteed upward mobility and a secure, prosperous future. Yet, even amidst this era of seemingly endless growth, a subtle shift began, a barely perceptible tremor beneath the polished marble. The initial decision to aggressively reinvest oil revenues into infrastructure, while undeniably smart, carried an unseen cost. By deliberately positioning itself as a hyper-connected global hub, Dubai had, by design, made its destiny inextricably linked to the ebb and flow of international capital, trade, and talent. This wasn't an error in judgment. It was a pragmatic move that felt entirely correct. Yet, within that brilliant strategy lay the seed of future vulnerability. The system's logic subtly pivoted from internal resource generation towards an inherent growing dependence on external validation, turning global integration from an undeniable advantage into a future Achilles heel. You see, the collective illusion was that possessing vast natural resources or successfully diversifying away from them was enough to secure a nation's future. It fostered an environment where rigorous reevaluation was often overshadowed by the sheer momentum of expansion. The stability you witnessed, the prosperity you imagined for Omar and his family, depended not just on shrewd local governance, but on a perpetual stream of external factors remaining favorable. It relied on assumptions about global peace, unfettered trade, and an endless appetite for investment. Assumptions never truly tested until now. This extraordinary model, celebrated for its escape from the resource curse, has meticulously constructed a system that, by design, faces an unending, high-stakes struggle for reinvention, and you are about to understand precisely why. You witnessed the city's spectacular ascent, a testament to relentless ambition. But beneath that shimmering success lay a pivotal decision, a strategic gamble made in the late 1960s and early 1970s. Dubai's leaders, facing finite oil reserves, chose not to merely consume their newfound wealth. Instead, they funneled every available dollar into an aggressive, audacious reinvestment strategy, building world-class ports, airports, and free zones. This move felt entirely rational, a pragmatic necessity to secure a future beyond the fleeting black gold. It was a bold declaration, an escape from the resource curse aimed at transforming a desert outpost into a global crossroads. At that moment, it appeared to be the only intelligent path forward, a calculated leap of faith into an interconnected world. Yet, within this brilliant, seemingly infallible strategy, lay the subtle, almost imperceptible seed of its future vulnerability, a hidden dependency waiting to unfold. This decisive pivot ignited an unprecedented era of infrastructure development. From the barren sands, gleaming towers pierced the sky. Sprawling logistics hubs emerged, and free zones bustled with international enterprise. The immediate effect was undeniable, a magnet for global trade, finance, and talent. Capital flowed in, businesses established roots, and skilled professionals flocked to this burgeoning oasis of opportunity. The city became a vibrant nexus, connecting east and west, a testament to visionary planning and execution. This rapid materialization of a global hub wasn't accidental. It was the direct, calculated outcome of that initial strategic choice, a self-reinforcing cycle of investment attracting more investment, creating an illusion of self-sustaining momentum. It worked spectacularly on the surface, drawing the world's attention to this audacious experiment in economic engineering. For individuals like Omar Al-Farsi, This was not just abstract economic policy, it was the very fabric of his life. He saw the city transform around him, and with it, his own prospects soared. Starting humbly, he rose through the ranks, his hard work and keen eye for opportunity richly rewarded. The construction sites he once surveyed as a junior became the foundations of his own successful development company. This burgeoning ecosystem felt like a true meritocracy, where effort directly translated into upward mobility and a secure future. The implicit promise was being fulfilled before his very eyes. Work diligently, innovate, embrace the global tide, and prosperity would be yours. Omar, like countless others, believed implicitly in this system, convinced that its momentum was inexhaustible, its rewards perpetual. But beneath the gleaming facade, an intricate shift in the system's fundamental logic was silently taking hold. By design, Dubai had meticulously traded one finite resource, oil, for an unyielding dependence on an array of external forces. Perpetual global capital flow, an endless influx of international talent, and an unwavering geopolitical stability. Global integration, once its undeniable strength, began to subtly morph into its most profound vulnerability. The engine of growth now demanded constant external fuel, rather than generating it purely from within. This wasn't an oversight or a miscalculation. It was an inherent condition of its chosen path, a high-stakes gamble on the world's perpetual benevolence and boundless economic appetite. A bet whose true cost was yet to become apparent. This intricate narrative, now unfolding before your eyes, reveals a universal truth. The most rational-seeming decisions, made with the best intentions, often plant the seeds of profound, long-term consequences. What seemingly astute choices in your own world, or the systems you observe daily, might carry such hidden costs? We invite you to share your perspectives in the comments below, contributing to a global conversation about the unseen forces shaping our collective future. Join our community of critical thinkers by subscribing, as we continue to unravel the complex, often counterintuitive, ripple effects of today's celebrated strategies, guiding you through the often unspoken truths that define our economic realities. For Omar, the early signs of this dissonance were subtle, almost imperceptible at first. The familiar rhythm of exponential growth, the unwavering promise that relentless effort would always yield a proportionate reward, began to falter. He still worked tirelessly, his strategic vision as sharp as ever, yet the tangible returns felt different, less assured. Projects that once seemed guaranteed now faced unforeseen hurdles. Investment cycles became less predictable. A creeping frustration began to set in, not born of failure, but of a subtle break in the expected cadence. The world he had helped build, the system he implicitly trusted, no longer seemed to offer the clear, linear progression it once had, introducing a quiet unease into his once unshakable confidence. You see, the system's initial success, built on attracting global capital, inherently exposed it to the capricious winds of international markets. Competitors emerged, eager to replicate Dubai's blueprint, intensifying the struggle for talent and investment. The cost of maintaining its state-of-the-art infrastructure, of consistently offering a premium lifestyle, began to escalate, demanding ever greater inflows of external wealth. These weren't isolated challenges. They were the nascent manifestations of the structural forces inherent in Dubai's chosen path. The very mechanisms designed for rapid ascent, unrestricted capital flow, dependence on global trade routes, were now quietly transforming into points of acute exposure, subtly eroding the foundational promises of the system itself. The collective illusion of limitless expansion, once so comforting, was beginning to fray at the edges. The system, once functional for rapid ascent, started to exhibit subtle signs of dysfunction in its inherent need for perpetual external stimulus. Sustained organic growth, once an assumed outcome, was becoming a constant, high-stakes challenge rather than a given. The promise of boundless opportunity, the notion that the tide would always rise for everyone, began to give way to a more constrained reality. This wasn't a sudden collapse, but a gradual, almost imperceptible erosion of the implicit social contract, a quiet redefinition of the terms of prosperity that few dared to acknowledge openly, even as its effects began to ripple through everyday lives. The strategic decision, once hailed as a stroke of genius, was to leverage Dubai's modest oil wealth not for fleeting consumption, but as a seed fund for a globally integrated economy. You saw it transform from a regional trading post into a bustling international crossroads, a deliberate pivot aimed at securing a future beyond the finite black gold. This wasn't merely about building. It was about engineering an entire economic identity, meticulously crafting a new purpose for a city born from the desert. The architects of this vision understood that true prosperity lay not in what lay beneath the sand, but in the connections forged above it, drawing the world's attention to this bold new experiment. This initial audacious move ignited an unprecedented era of infrastructure development that reshaped the very landscape. From the barren, sun-baked earth, gleaming towers rapidly pierced the sky, sprawling logistics hubs emerged, and free zones bustled with the energy of international enterprise. The immediate, electrifying effect was undeniable. Dubai became a magnet, pulling in global trade, finance, and an endless stream of talent from every corner of the earth. Capital flowed in, businesses eagerly established roots, and skilled professionals flocked to this burgeoning oasis of opportunity, creating a vibrant nexus connecting East and West, a testament to visionary planning. For individuals like Omar Al-Farsi, this wasn't an abstract economic theory. It was the tangible reality that defined his life and validated his every effort. He had watched his city transform around him, and with each new skyscraper, his own prospects soared. Starting humbly, he rose through the ranks, his dedication and keen eye for opportunity richly rewarded, eventually founding his own successful development company. This burgeoning ecosystem felt like a true meritocracy, where hard work directly translated into upward mobility and a secure future. The implicit promise that diligence would always yield prosperity was being fulfilled before his very eyes. Yet, within this spectacular success, the seeds of a new, intricate vulnerability were silently taking root, transforming its greatest strength into a point of acute exposure. The very mechanisms that propelled Dubai's rapid ascent, unrestricted capital flow, an inherent dependence on global trade routes, and a transient, highly skilled workforce, began to morph. The system, once perfectly functional for rapid growth, found itself inherently dependent on perpetual external stimulus, making it exquisitely sensitive to every ripple and shock emanating from the unpredictable global economy, a dependency that few truly acknowledged. For Omar, the early whispers of this dissonance were subtle, almost imperceptible against the backdrop of continued progress. The familiar rhythm of exponential growth, the unwavering promise that relentless effort would always yield proportionate reward, began to falter, subtly at first. He still worked tirelessly, his strategic vision as sharp as ever, yet the tangible returns felt different, less assured. Projects that once seemed guaranteed now faced unforeseen hurdles. Investment cycles became less predictable. A creeping frustration began to set in, not born of failure, but of a quiet, unsettling break in the expected cadence, eroding his once unshakable confidence. If you want to understand complex global dynamics that no one else explains to the end, subscribe to our channel and join a community that demands deeper insights. The antagonists were not villains in boardrooms, but the structural forces inherent in Dubai's chosen path. You see them in the inherent volatility of global capital markets, which possess the power to withdraw investment as swiftly as it arrived, leaving a void. You feel them in the relentless pressure of international competition from other aspiring global hubs, constantly vying for the same talent and investment. You witness them in the escalating costs of maintaining state-of-the-art infrastructure and a premium standard of living, costs that demand ever greater external inflows to sustain. These weren't isolated challenges. They were the nascent manifestations of deeper systemic forces. Consider the geopolitical instabilities of the broader region, which, though external, can disrupt trade and tourism in an instant, creating profound economic tremors. Or the systemic requirement for continuous, often unsustainable innovation and development. An unending race to constantly attract new business and talent just to stay relevant. These forces, while external in origin, became internal challenges to a system meticulously built on perpetual motion and an unyielding reliance on external validation. A complex web of interconnected dependencies. The critical decision, marking the true point of no return, occurred in the early 2000s with the launch of audacious megaprojects like Palm Jumeirah and the Burj Khalifa. This wasn't merely about construction. It was a definitive, unequivocal statement of intent to solidify Dubai's position as a global luxury, tourism, and business icon far beyond its regional roots. At this pivotal juncture, Dubai could have opted for a more conservative, incremental growth model, prioritizing internal market development and less reliant on speculative international capital, choosing a different, slower path. However, the leadership chose acceleration and global prominence, believing that rapid, visible expansion was the surest way to secure its future, doubling down on the external gamble. The implicit cost of opportunity lost was the chance to build a slower, potentially more self-sufficient economy, one less exposed to the whims of global finance. From this point onward, Dubai's trajectory became irreversibly tied to its ability to continuously attract and manage massive global investments, and to perpetually maintain its image as a premier destination. This meant its economic stability became perpetually contingent on external forces, a high-stakes gamble with no easy exit. For Omar and for countless others, this wasn't a theoretical shift. It was the dawning realization that the future they had meticulously built was now permanently tethered to an unpredictable global currents. The promise of boundless opportunity, once an assumed right, had quietly transformed into a constant, high-stakes struggle for reinvention, demanding an unending, almost desperate, quest for the next wave of external validation. The structural vulnerabilities of this celebrated model were not theoretical. They became starkly real during the seismic shifts of the 2008 global financial crisis. You witnessed the immediate, devastating consequences. A severe downturn in Dubai's once booming real estate market, triggering widespread project cancellations that left skeletal structures reaching into the desert sky, monuments to halted ambition. This wasn't merely an economic ripple, it translated directly into significant job losses, forcing thousands of expatriates, once integral to the city's engine, to pack their lives into suitcases and leave almost overnight. A critical debt restructuring followed, requiring external intervention to stabilize a system built on perpetual motion. This cascade of events wasn't an accidental misfortune. It was the logical, inevitable outcome of a model so profoundly dependent on an endless stream of global capital, proving its foundational premise was indeed exquisitely vulnerable to international shocks. The reality confirmed the thesis, undeniably. Beyond that acute crisis, the subtle, ongoing validation of these structural challenges continues to unfold. Consider the relentless need for continuous rebranding, the launch of new mega-projects like Expo 2020, not as organic growth, but as strategic imperatives to constantly maintain global relevance and attract fresh investment. These aren't choices of convenience, they are existential requirements. Simultaneously, you observe the increasing cost of living and doing business, a relentless upward pressure that, coupled with an intensely competitive global landscape, has led to a noticeable migration of some businesses and a plateauing of expatriate population growth in certain key sectors. This starkly illustrates the inherent limits of perpetual expansion and the unending, high-stakes challenge of maintaining its competitive edge against a world that learns and adapts. If this current trajectory continues without fundamental paradigm-shifting adjustments, Dubai faces a future defined by an intensely escalating competition for both global capital and top-tier talent. Its unique appeal, once an almost unchallenged magnet for ambition and investment, risks significant erosion as other cities worldwide increasingly replicate elements of its successful blueprint, often at a lower cost. The next generations, those who once envisioned an endlessly ascending future, will inherit an economy that demands not just innovation, but constant high-stakes adaptation, operating with significantly less room for error than their predecessors enjoyed. The country's global role, once that of a dynamic, unbridled growth engine, could subtly shift into a mature, high-cost hub perpetually struggling to justify its premium existence in an ever more crowded and competitive global arena. This evolution, if unchecked, could irrevocably transform the fundamental social contract that underpins this society. The implicit promise of boundless opportunity, once a cornerstone of life here, may quietly give way to a more constrained, even challenging reality, where rewards are harder won and far less assured for everyone. This profound shift would inevitably impact the welfare state, forcing a critical reevaluation of the long-held expectations by both its citizens and its long-term residents. The very model, meticulously designed for unparalleled speed and spectacular ascent, risks becoming a victim of its own success if it cannot find new, sustainable foundations for growth that extend far beyond a perpetual reliance on external stimulus. It's a profound redefinition of what prosperity truly means when the global tide no longer rises indiscriminately for all. Understanding these intricate dynamics, these often unseen forces shaping our world, is no longer a luxury. It is an absolute necessity for navigating the future. If you found yourself genuinely compelled by this deep dive, if you're seeking to understand not just what happens, but why it happens, and what comes next for this and countless other structural shifts, then you belong with us. We meticulously unpack these complex narratives, connecting the crucial dots that others miss, providing unparalleled clarity in a world of constant, often bewildering change. Don't just observe, truly comprehend. Join our growing community of critical thinkers. Subscribe to our channel now and ensure you remain at the absolute forefront of understanding the next unfolding chapters of our global economic reality. Your crucial insight begins here. Dubai's extraordinary journey offers a powerful, yet profoundly cautionary, lesson for the entire world. It demonstrates unequivocally that while strategic vision and aggressive diversification can indeed transform temporary advantages into formidable global influence, such a model inherently trades one form of structural vulnerability, finite natural resources, for another, more insidious one, an unyielding dependence on the perpetual flow of global capital, external talent, and unwavering geopolitical stability. This isn't a flaw in execution, it's an inherent condition. It reveals a universal pattern, a truth that even the most innovative and seemingly resilient systems are ultimately bound by the immutable laws of economic cycles and the very real limits of perpetual growth. This story matters not just for its geographical specificity, but because it profoundly compels you, the viewer, to critically examine the true nature of prosperity in a hyper-connected and increasingly volatile world. It forces you to ask the uncomfortable, yet absolutely essential question that transcends borders. Can rapid, externally driven expansion ever truly translate into long-term, self-sustaining stability, capable of creating a genuinely resilient and equitable future for its people? Or does it merely redefine the terms of an unending, high-stakes gamble, perpetually pushing the horizon of its next existential challenge, demanding constant, exhausting reinvention? The answers are rarely simple and often deeply uncomfortable, but they are undeniably crucial for understanding the forces that shape your own future, wherever you are observing from. The glittering mirage of limitless growth, once an aspirational beacon for the world, now reveals itself as a complex, meticulously constructed reality, ultimately bound by the very global currents it so audaciously sought to master. You now see not just a city, but a profound microcosm of an economic philosophy, a testament to human ambition and its inevitable structural costs. The ascent was undeniably real, the vision breathtaking, but the perpetual motion machine always demands fuel, and sometimes that fuel comes at an unforeseen price, subtly redefining what it truly means to thrive in an interconnected world. The future, for all of us, demands a deeper understanding of these intricate dependencies, for the forces at play here echo far beyond these shimmering spires.